How's it going? Thad Brown here with you on a Monday. It is January the 12th, day after the Bills dispatch the Jaguars 27-24 in the wild card round. We're going to dive into all kinds of topics from this game. Josh Allen, Trey White, Brandon Cooks having an impact. Some decisions Sean McDermott made at various points in this game. The refs, too, were a factor because they always are. We're also going to talk about the Broncos, who are up next. Let me tell you, this is a 1 seed in name only. I'll explain why. And we will talk about the reporter in Jacksonville who is absolutely dominating social media today. Was she right? Was she wrong? We'll get into all that and a whole lot more. Rachel Labert will be along too later on to do the weekly You See This segment. Weird stuff that happened over the weekend in sports. Glad to have you with me today on a Monday. Hoping to be here on Thursday. We'll see you trying to figure out what the travel plans are going to be, what the coverage plans are going to be for Bills and Broncos, which will happen on Saturday. We don't know what time yet. I really can't for the life of me figure out why the NFL has not announced a time for this game yet. The game that is in question is the one that happens tonight, Houston and Pittsburgh. And I can understand the league having a difference of opinion, whether it's New England, Pittsburgh, or New England, Houston. To me, New England, Pittsburgh, you got Boston market, Aaron Rodgers, legacy franchise, and the Steelers. That's a really attractive game. New England, Houston, probably going to be a defensive battle. CJ Stroud doesn't really move the needle. So I can understand that New England, Pittsburgh would be a wildly different draw. Maybe not wildly, but certainly different draw than New England, Houston. So saving the game time for Sunday, when that game is going to happen, I can understand. I don't know why the league can't announce when the Saturday games are. San Fran, Seattle, Buffalo, Denver, the look of those games is not going to change. Now, maybe usually what happens is one network, either CBS or Fox, I think this is a Fox year, will get 2 division games. So I wonder if maybe the thinking is if we get New England, Pittsburgh, and we want that to be the 6 o'clock game on Sunday night, which means that the Rams and Bears go to 3. Do you want to then say, all right, well, Fox gets Rams, Bears at 3, but then they get the late game on Saturday? But then we don't even have to do NFC, AFC. Fox could get the Pittsburgh Chargers game. Or I'm sorry, the Pittsburgh New England game. So I'm kind of a little scratching my head about why the league is taking forever or taking an extra 24 hours to figure out what time these games are going to be. The other thing, too, is whether it's New England, Pittsburgh or New England, Houston, I would think Rams, Bears is your game of the weekend. It is LA, it is Chicago, it is 2 top 3 markets. It is 2 really good offenses. Yeah, the quarterbacks aren't superb household names, but if any game is going to have a final of 34-31, it's probably Bears-Rams. So I think that one has all the ingredients to be the priority game, the best game of the weekend. Remember, Ravens-Bills last year, that was the 6:30 game on Sunday because that was by far the best game of the weekend. This year, it's not as clear because of the lack of star power at quarterback in general. But I think LA and Chicago is the one you want to put at 6:30 on Sunday, no matter what happens with Steelers and Texans tonight on Monday. So it's kind of baffling why the league is doing this, but whatever. Either way, we're going to find out tonight if the Bills play at 4:30 or at 8. My slight lean is 4:30 for the Bills, although Ben Albright, who covers the Broncos and is really plugged in on a lot of stuff, his slight lean was 8 o'clock for that game. Either one makes sense to me. You would think with Seattle, San Fran being the other game on Saturday, they might want to go later for the West Coast folks, but certainly the West Coast audience can tune into a game at 1:30 with a 4:30 Eastern kick. So I don't think it matters that much. And it ain't like Denver is exactly on the Atlantic seaboard either. So there's good arguments both ways for what we do with the Bills-Denver game. Either way, we find out tonight. Before we get into that one, let's go back and talk about Bills and Jaguars. And with many Bills wins, we start with Josh Allen. But for the most part, when we describe a Josh Allen big win game, at some point the phrase putting the cape on, being Superman, that all comes up. And you saw that yesterday from a number of national experts. To me, this was not a Superman game for Josh Allen. This was a Clark Kent game. This was Josh Allen being smart, being prudent, being efficient, and most importantly, being clean for 60 minutes. There were no fumbles. There were no interceptions. There weren't even very many plays that came close to that. Remember that Chiefs lost last year in the AFC Championship. Allen didn't turn it over. And you'll see all the Allen fans talk about, look at Josh Allen. He never turns the ball over in the playoffs. He really tried hard to do it last year. He put the ball on the ground 3 times in that AFC Championship game. And on the first possession of the game, his first 2 throws bounced off multiple Chiefs' hands before it got anywhere close to a Bills receiver. That was not this game. This game was smart decisions. This game was taking what the defense gave you. This game was doing the right thing over and over and over. It doesn't have to be spectacular to win playoff games. And to be honest, a lot of times, not spectacular is almost what you want. Because in the playoffs, it's not always about who can make the ridiculous play. It's who can make the competent play more times. And if you're not sure about that, just compare Josh to the other quarterback in this game. Trevor Lawrence did not look comfortable for most of the first half. That interception he threw to Shaq Thompson is an absolute gift. There is no reason Lawrence should be making that throw. I know he probably felt like he had frozen Shaq Thompson with a look and it opened up enough space to fit that ball into his zone. It wasn't even close to being correct. And the way that play is being operated, it's not like there are receivers running Shaq Thompson away from Parker Washington on that throw. That's just a bad decision. I don't care if it's week 19 in the wild card, week 1, or a preseason game your rookie year. That's just a ridiculous decision that Trevor Lawrence made. He had other misses in the game. He had a third down throw I was just looking at today where nothing was open. He's just kind of winging it over the middle and hoping. Even the throw at the end of the game when the Jaguars have to get a field goal, they didn't have to make that particular throw. Trey White has Jacoby Myers locked up. That's not a good call. But where Trevor Lawrence missed, Josh Allen was executing over and over and over. Even his 9 carries, he had 11 officially because there are 2 kneel downs. His 9 carries, 6 of which were successful. 5 went for first downs. He scored 2 touchdowns in this game. Allen did everything you want from a quarterback without having to hurdle guys, without having to do the whole, I'm going to scramble over to the sideline and hold the ball, fling it across my body for 40 yards downfield and hit some guy that no one ever thought was open. You didn't have to do that yesterday. Allen was, the Superman stuff Allen did was between the ears. He operated the offense as good as you possibly can. And in a game like that, a lot of the time, that's enough. How many times have we seen? I just told you about last year. Yeah, Allen did some crazy stuff in that Chiefs game last year. Number of running plays, but he didn't do enough of the stuff between the ears to win that game against Pat Mahomes. Even go back to his rookie game against the Texans. There are incredible things, rookie playoff, or first playoff game, I should say. There are incredible physical things Allen did in that game, but the mental stuff is what got him beat. Yesterday, the mental stuff was flawless, just top to bottom. And that was the difference for the Bills in this game. Now, there's a lot of differences in a game that you win by 3 points. There's going to be 7 different things we can point at as, quote, the difference. But it always starts with the quarterback. And Allen did his job at such a high level yesterday. That's what got the Bills through. Without having to bounce off 7 guys as he runs for 40 yards. And he did all this, too, taking a heck of a beating. I mean, if you went to Allen after the game and said, what hurts? The dude could have sung the head, shoulders, knees, and toes song. It was everything. He came in nursing a foot injury, wasn't on the injury report, but probably is still dealing with some issue, at least from the human being point of view. He grabbed his knee on a run in the middle of the game. He was checked for a concussion in the game. He banged his hand on a helmet throwing the ball in this game. And Allen's toughness has never been doubted, but this was just another example of how ridiculously tough that guy can be. Sean McDermott called him a warrior. That's absolutely the right term. And while that maybe that physical stuff is Superman-esque, at the end of the day, it was the Clark Kent stuff that won the Bills this game, that got them over the top. I mean, look at Allen's numbers. 273, 7 incompletions out of 35 throws, 3 total touchdowns. He got it done in the way that maybe not he normally does, or in a way that a normal human being quarterback would usually do it. It doesn't have to be an alien performance all the time to succeed. And that was not that. This was Josh Allen just being competent, professional, over and over and over. And that can work for 3 more games. You don't need to get, now it's nice to have that other guy in there that, hey, if you need to, get one of those 40-yard flings, that can happen. But to be honest, if Allen can win this way more often, it would be cleaner and easier for the Bills. Because when you put Allen in that spot where he's got to scramble like that, where he's got to do that ridiculous stuff, that's where the bad things happen too. You saw yesterday, he didn't have to do any of that. And there were very few throws that you can even debate were close to turnover worthy. When you can just let Allen drop back and operate the offense, or when he has the ability to do that, when he has a game like that, the guy is just as ridiculous as when he's flying over defenders, leaping linebackers in a single bound. He doesn't need to do that all the time. And like I said, there's an argument out there, I think, where on the whole, if you have Josh Allen play this game, this really good game, or the ridiculously physical one where he's doing all that other stuff, I might argue the Bills are more likely to win this one because you're just asking him to be a quarterback. You're not asking him to be Superman. And when he's just a quarterback, he's really damn good at that too. Either way, I was impressed. I mean, you can debate about what kind of Allen you want. They're all good. And this was a really good one. And there were still good plays in this game. It wasn't like he didn't do anything physically great. The throw to Brandon Cooks against the blitz, actually, to be honest, I think looking at it today, I was maybe more impressed by the read than the actual throw, but that's still a good play with a blitzer bearing down on you, not being blocked, that you got to put that downfield 40 yards into a good spot. The Dawson Knox throw on the drive before, the 24-yarder that was kind of layered over the top of a linebacker in front, that was a really good throw. He had the one on the sideline in the first half to Brandon Cooks, where Cooks also drew a pass interference. I don't know how the heck he gets that ball in. So there were a number of really good physical plays from Josh Allen. But it was the mental stuff and how just clean he was a cold-blooded executor in this game. And I don't mean like executor like medieval times off with your head kind of stuff. I mean executing play after play after play. Without worry, without nerves. And again, if you don't think that's impressive, Trevor Lawrence had trouble getting to even that. The interception was as dumb as can be. The interception at the end of the game, I get it a little bit, but a bad choice. The 4th down run by Lawrence, just keep your feet. I was looking at that play today. If Lawrence keeps his feet and makes a cut back towards the pile, he might score on that play. But instead, it looked like he got kind of over his skis a little bit, maybe slipped a little, and couldn't quite get to the line of the gain, even though it's him and Shaq Thompson in open space, and he's got to get 2 yards. That's a play that Trevor Lawrence should win 19 times out of 20. But in the playoffs, when it matters more, when the pressure is ratcheted up, those are the kind of things you can make mistakes on. Dawson Knox said last week, his phrase was, the thing that stuck with him was, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall back to the level of your training. Well, I think in the playoffs, in the NFL, you don't rise to the moment, to the occasion, you fall back to the level of your execution, your ability to just get stuff done. Josh Allen, 10 out of 10. Trevor Lawrence, not as good. Trevor Lawrence is going home. Josh Allen's going on to Denver. So a heck of a game by Josh Allen. Also, Trey White, I think, was the star of the defense. It's funny that when I talked about it in my column, if you want to read all my thoughts on this game from yesterday, you can go to rochesterfirst.com. The nice segue between the offensive part of this game and the defensive part was, while the story of the game was the best player on the field on offense for the Bills, the best player on defense was also the best story of the game for this team, at least, with Trey White. And 3 pass breakups, obviously had the breakup at the end of the game to set up the interception and finish this one off for the Bills. It's been such a good story. And I know it's been talked about a lot. The way he had the ACL injury, then the Achilles injury, had to come back from both. Last year, Bills let him go. He goes to the Rams, goes to the Ravens. Both teams release him within months. So he got looks from two good organizations, 2 organizations that have won relatively recent Super Bowls. Trey White was there, and both of them said, nah, you don't work with us, within months. So the Bills bring him back. And let's be fair, early this season, all of us had questions about whether or not he was going to be good enough at that corner 2 spot. There's a reason why the Bills spent a first-round pick at corner. Even the Bills weren't convinced that Trey White was going to be the answer. And yesterday, he 100% was. He was plenty good. I watched this whole game from top to bottom. Now, look, let's remember what the bar is. He's corner 2. This is not your elite number 1. The Bills have that. It's called Christian Benford. You don't need Trey White to be the all-pro he was 4 or 5 years ago. And I think expecting him to be that is probably unrealistic. But as a number 2 corner, I don't know what more you want to get out of him than what the Bills got yesterday. 3 huge pass breakups. Obviously, the one that led to the interception. There was one at the end of the first half that Cole Bishop said, look, that was my zone. It was a play there where there were 2 receivers going vertical down the right side of the field. Trey's got the receiver on the outside. I'm pretty sure it's Brian Thomas. And then to the inside, the tight end, Bretton Strange. Now, I will say, from an offensive point of view, those 2 routes are probably being run too close together to allow Trey to make this play. But regardless, Cole Bishop is the safety in the middle of the field. He said later that the tight end was supposed to be his responsibility. And inside the tight end, between the tight end and Bishop, way too much space. That's why Trevor Lawrence pulls the trigger on that throw. White recognizes what's going on and is able to cover for Bishop with a play that probably stopped the touchdown. Saved the Bills 4 points. The Jags ended up kicking a field goal on the drive. So you had that one, and then he had a pass breakup a couple plays before that, also against the tight end. That was a poorly thrown ball by Trevor Lawrence, but another one where I thought Trey did a good job reacting early. You can tell how comfortable he is in the defense. He's been doing this for years. He knows where to be. He knows where the coaches, what they want him to do. He knows what his role is supposed to be and how he can be the most effective on this team. And he saved a touchdown early in the second half, and he finished the game off late in the second half. And everybody loves him. Everybody loves talking to him. Trey White last week won the Stand-Up Guy Award from us in the media, which is the award we present annually to the player who is essentially the most helpful to the job. There's more to it than that. It's about professionalism. It's about respect. So those are all the things that go into this award. But if you want to just broad brush it, it's the guy who's most helpful to us throughout the year. And we do value when a player will speak about a subject that isn't necessarily his favorite, i.e. after a loss. And Trey White's been good with all that this year. He's in a good spot. And this is a guy that at times, when we've talked to him in the media, you can tell how dark it's gotten for him when he's had to go through rehabs, when he's been by himself. The players who go through long-term rehab always talk about how dark it is because you have the routine that you go through as a player. You show up on Monday to watch film, and then Tuesday's a day off, and there's lifting in there, and there's meetings. Well, when you're going through rehab, you've got your own routine, and you got to underline the word your own because you are by yourself. Unless you happen to catch someone else who's got the same injury at the same time, there is no one else who's doing what you are. Your 50, 60 teammates, including the guys in the practice squad, they all have meetings and practices to go to, film to watch, stuff like that. Not you. All you go through is the rehab. And White talked about how lonely that was. Harrison Phillips has talked about how lonely that can get. So to go through all that, to be cut from the team that you want to play for, the Bills, to be then cut from 2 other teams, good organizations again, who say that you're not good enough, to come back to Buffalo, and even with the Bills welcoming Trey White with open arms, they also said, yeah, we're not sure we're going to go spend a first-round pick on a guy at your position. To go through all that, to have some struggles early in the year, and then to play that game in round 1 of the playoffs, which again could have been, quote, the difference in the game, that's pretty damn good. That's a good story. That's why the NFL is awesome. Because you get stories like this in one game. And look, the Bills may go to Denver and lose the game and crash out for the season, but for right now, and even if that happens, this has been a fantastic year for Trey White. Certainly something that Bills players, Bills coaches, Bills staffers, Bills fans are excited to watch happen because of how beloved he is within this organization. And I think for most of us, we're just happy to see him succeed after all he's gone through. This was a guy that was on top of the world, one of the best corners in the NFL before the injuries ruined what would have been the back half of his prime. And he's probably never going to find that prime again, but for him to be able to find this level of production, which is ridiculously high for what was expected for sure, and is a good season no matter how you measure it. No matter what qualifications you want to put on it, Trey White's had a damn good year. And good for him. Good for him, especially for all that he's gone through. On the offensive side of the ball, there's a surprise that's happening that's at least allowing the Bills a little more firepower. And it's Brandon Cooks. And he had another nice game yesterday. 3 catches, 58 yards. Did have the drop. I know people may not like the call. CBS had a bad day, by the way, as an aside. The replay on the Brandon Cooks overturn was minimal. They didn't have much of a replay on the whole thing that happened at the end of the first half. They just kept on showing the giant over-the-head broadcast angle, which really doesn't tell you much. They didn't do a good job. I didn't think either giving you the best angle of the Trevor Lawrence 4th down play. They did eventually get to it. But initially, I'm looking at those 2 angles from up high, and I'm like, I don't see clear evidence that his shin is down. They did get to it later, though. But overall, I did not think CBS had a superb day covering that game, which is a little bit inexcusable because it wasn't like they had 7 games to cover this weekend. They had 1 game. Put all your resources into Jacksonville and make sure that goes well, and they didn't do it. So I know people didn't like the Brandon Cooks overturn. I think there's reason that it could be right, but I never saw evidence, same as you, that told me for sure it was the right call. I see him bobbling it there. And like we talked about yesterday on BKL Nightly, me and Caleb Carr, you can check that out here in Rochester First too. Cooks and not pulling the ball in initially has been an issue so far with the Bills. He did that in one of the catches he made against the Eagles. And this is the risk you run, that if you're going to bobble the ball, if a defender gets there a beat late on a play that the ball beat him in where it should be a catch, if you're bobbling it, you might not hold on. And you might be susceptible to what happened yesterday, which is you get a weird overturn because everybody can see you're bobbling it, even if it's hard to tell if you really let the ball touch the ground. All that said, Cooks has been a really solid addition to this receiving corps. He's not great. Look, this is not 2019 Brandon Cooks playing for the Bills, but he's got some juice, and he's making teams respect the Bills' passing game down the field to a degree at least. And he's hurting teams down there too. That blitz catch was exactly that. That was a play where now the defensive back is probably coming down on a shorter route and just making the wrong choice while Josh Allen is being blitzed to let Cooks get that open. But regardless, Cooks' speed is a big part of what makes that play work. And he's been competent professional on some sideline routes too. He hit 2 of them yesterday, just solid out routes where a defensive back is giving you a lot of space and you're making it hurt. And stuff like that. The Bills receiving corps has been so difficult to find production, has struggled so much this year to get anything going their way, that just having a receiver who can win a 10-yard out is cool. That's a bonus. Like, hey, where's that been all year? So if Cooks can just, we talked about this a couple different times over the last month, if Cooks can just provide that, it's a help for the Bills. It's another release valve. It's another option to where Josh Allen doesn't have to spend every single drop back hoping Khalil Shakir can turn a 3-yard throw into 13. He was really good at that yesterday, by the way, too. He doesn't have to hope that Dalton Kincaid wins every route. He's got something else he can go to with Cooks, and it gives the Bills a big playability that they really haven't had most of the year. I mean, it just helps that you talk about how difficult it is for Allen to wait for Shakir or wait for Kincaid, but when you've got to do it in chunks of 8 and 10 and 12, that means you got to do it 8 and 12 and 13 times down the field. With Cooks, you now got a chance where you can hit a 40-yarder. And now you don't need 8-play touchdown drives. You can just do it in 6 or even 4 or 5 or whatever. Cooks makes things just a little bit easier. And we've talked about how good this offense is otherwise, that the offensive line and James Cook and Josh Allen, you've got a base here to where you're going to be pretty good no matter who the receivers are. But now that you got a guy who gives you a little bit of benefit, it might take this offense to a level that's good enough to win a Super Bowl. And you saw that in the last couple games of the regular season, and it happened again yesterday. And it doesn't need to be a lot. Just give me the 3 for 60. Perfect. It's exactly what the Bills need. Perfect. You let Josh Allen and Shakir and Dalton Kincaid here and there do the rest. The run game was terrible yesterday because the Jags defense is just that good. It will not be that bad again the rest of the year. The Bills don't have to face a defense like that again the rest of the year. They have good defenses. Like if they get into a game with New England, they're not going to run it for 150 against the Patriots again. But will they run it? James Cook, 15 carries, 46 yards? No, it'll be better than that. Jacksonville was number one for a reason. You saw it yesterday. And the Bills didn't even need James Cook, which is the most encouraging part of that win, that they were able to get that done with the run game being nearly zero. And absolutely Brandon Cooks is a huge reason, is one of the reasons why that was able to happen. There were a couple of good decisions in that game yesterday. Always is playoff stuff. Whenever it's close, it's fun. It's fun to debate A or B, to play the whole Dungeons and Dragons game. If you go through this door and then you do that, would that have affected C down the road? I thought Sean McDermott had a couple that really, really were like on the fence, 50-50 type decisions. First of all, credit to McDermott for challenging the 4th and 2 scramble or run play by Trevor Lawrence. I don't think there was a huge question mark to whether or not you challenge. I think when the challenge flag was thrown, there was a good question about whether or not it was going to get overturned, but it's a smart challenge because it's a game-changing play. You think about how that game goes. Let's say Lawrence gets the first down there or the call's allowed to stand. If the Jags go in and score and make it 14-3, that makes it a whole lot tougher for the Bills. Totally changes how that game plays out. Because now the Bills are down 2 scores. Yeah, they might have scored right away, but we keep playing the game out the way it ended up, then the Jags go to the half up 14-10 instead of down 10-7, and they're the ones leading the whole way through. You don't know how that game goes. 14-3 really alters the trajectory of that game as opposed to 7-3, which the Bills quickly turned into 10-7 their way. So smart challenge for sure. And we talked a little earlier about Josh Allen executing versus Trevor Lawrence not being able to, even on the basic stuff. Well, Liam Cohen, in the third quarter of that game, had an opportunity to challenge a 3rd and 5 throw to Gabe Davis that he was pretty clearly bobbling on his way out of bounds that I thought would have been incomplete. If they had looked at it, he didn't throw the flag. And it's not as quite game-changing as what the Bills dealt with 4th and 2 inside the 10. But it was one he probably should have thrown the flag on. Sean McDermott knew to do it, had a system in place that allowed him to be prepared for that. Liam Cohen did not. That's why the Bills win. Again, small things that make a difference in a 3-point game. The 2 that were questionable. Let's start with the 4th and 4 punt at the end of the first half. So the Bills are on the Jacksonville 45-ish yard line. Let me see if I can call it up here quick, the exact scenario. It's 10-7, and you got a little less than a minute to go in the first half. I would have gone for it there, A, to be aggressive, because if you get the first down, it's probably worth 3 points to you. Because you're close enough to where if you get those 4 yards inside the 40, I know it's Matt Prater, you might need a little more, but I think essentially you can find your way to field goal range. So 4th and 4, Jacksonville 45, minute 14 to go, and they take the delay of game. I like being aggressive. I like putting points on the board. But in addition, as good as your defense is playing, even if the Jags take over the 45, I feel like the worst that I'm giving up is a 3. At worst case, if I fail on that 4th down, it's 10-10 at the half, and I get the ball first in the second half. And I know people, the argument against has been, well, Cam Little's got this long leg. He's good from anywhere. As the Bills showed you, punting the ball away does not take the field goal out of play. The Bills got as good a punt as you possibly can get. Mitch Wisnowski dropped that thing on the 3-yard line. So you got the A+ 100 out of 100 punt on that decision. And the Jags still got a reasonable field goal try. So punting the ball away did not save you anything. It puts you basically in the same position you would have been anyway, which is giving up an attempt at a field goal. Now, all that said, because the punt was down, because the Bills punted, because it was down to the 3, the field goal was 54 yards instead of like 34 yards. And because of that, you probably can argue that's why Cam Little missed it. He's a really long kicker. He's got incredible leg strength. He's not ridiculously accurate. So although I would have gone for it, at the end of the day, McDermott's decision was proven correct because he forced at least a long enough field goal try that the Jags did not get 3. And if Cam Little had made that 3-pointer, boy, that does, you want to talk about changing the trajectory of the game. If that's 27-27 with a minute to go, I don't think Trevor Lawrence tries to force that throw into where Trey White's in good coverage. So I feel strong about McDermott making the wrong call, even if I think it's a wrong call by like 55-45. The other one that people talked about a lot more actually was right at the end of the game when the Bills have 1st and goal at the 1 with a minute to go. Jags are out of timeouts. And you know the situation is if you score right away, you're going to leave Jacksonville about a minute to go down and get a field goal. And even without a timeout, they just proved it to you at the end of the first half. That's more than enough time. And what the Bills could have done is not take a knee. You don't want to take a knee and lose a yard, but you could have had Josh Allen dive forward at the feet of his center and keep the ball inside the 1. So you're still in tush-push range, but you also get to run 40 seconds off the clock. And I really at the moment thought about, man, that's probably the right call. Like I never would advocate for not trying to score, for trying to put working the clock ahead of getting the points you need in a game where you're trailing. Never, ever, ever would I say that's the right call. I always say you got to go score your points. You can't worry about anything else. Go get ahead first and then worry about winning the game. But in that spot, when you have that sneak that has generally been unstoppable. Yeah, I know the Chiefs got him a few times last year, and the Jags actually got him once in this game too. But you're going to get 3 chances, and you have all your timeouts. So if you run that clock down, if you do the Josh Allen dive into the goal line thing, you're going to run the clock down to 20 seconds. You've got 3 chances to get in from inside the 1. There's no way, if you had told me the Bills have 3 shots inside the 1 to run the sneak with Josh Allen, outside of a false start, there's no way the Bills don't get that in. And look, to be fair, the false start is certainly a concern there. And that's why the more I've thought about it, the more I end up landing on the spot of what I always think, which is you got to score the points first. I know there are a lot of people talked about take the knee or do the dive, kill the time. Don't even leave Jacksonville any hope. But as the Bills proved, taking the points and getting ahead has a benefit because you can still have your defense win the game. It's not like it's not like it's you kill the clock and win or you don't kill the clock and lose. It's you kill the clock and you might win as long as your team doesn't jump or anything stupid happens. And if you don't kill the clock, you might still win because your defense can just make a play. So after thinking about it for a while, I am on the side of McDermott and where I've always been, that you take the points first. You don't work the clock ahead of the scoreboard. You get ahead first, and then you try to win the game. And again, the worst case scenario of scoring there was probably going to be overtime. If you give up a touchdown drive of 70-ish yards with 50 seconds to go and no timeouts, that's on your defense. That's not on you going for it at the goal line. That's on your defense. So McDermott made the right call, and it paid off with a W. All right, speaking of that W, that means that the Bills are going to get to play the Broncos next up here, and we're going to talk about Denver in a minute. They're the 1 seed, but man, it's really hard to take them seriously as a 1 seed, and I will explain why after this. My name is Thad Brown. You're watching Rock One. This is the Endgame. We got more Bills talk, more football talk coming up after a break. Stay with us, please. Thad Brown back here with you on the Endgame. Big controversy with the officiating at the end of the first half. So we talked about the decision the Bills made there to punt at the end of the half instead of trying to go for it. And the Jags ended up going from their 3 into Bills territory to give Cam Little a look at a 54-yard field goal at the very end of the game. Now, that field goal was made possible because officials determined that as the Jags were trying to hustle up and snap the ball and stop the clock before it hit 0, that while the clock did hit 0 at the end of the half, they got the snap off before the clock at 0. So first of all, if you think about that as a normal play, let's say there were 7 seconds to go and the Jags snap the ball and Lawrence runs around and throws the ball deep and the clock runs out there. If there's a penalty on the play, even if the clock hits 0 on the defense, there's still one more down. There's still the old untimed down at the end of the half. So, on a regular play, if it snapped with 6 seconds to go, that penalty would count. In the same way, if the ball is snapped with 1 second to go or like 0.001 seconds to go, that play still counts. And because the Bills were offside, they didn't hustle down and get on their side of the ball fast enough. That penalty that exists on that play still counts. So in theory, as long as the ball is snapped in time, that's why the penalty be okay. Now, the question is, did the ball get snapped in time? Like I said, the replay CBS showed, it looked like it did not. But they only had the one replay, and you couldn't really get close enough to see if the snetter snapped the ball in time. Well, I looked at it today on the NFL Pro on the All-22, and what those guys do will cover those games that a lot of times for their own purposes, they will shoot the scoreboard before every play so that if you're not sure about what the time and down and situation is of a play, it's right there. You just put your camera on the scoreboard, you see time and everything. So on the replay, you can see the camera point to the sideline or point to the scoreboard and watch the clock tick from 5 to 4 to 3. So what I did is I took a piece of video from it and I started the piece of video at the moment it goes from 4 seconds to 3. So at that point, there are still 3 full seconds left before the half ends. So the question is, does the ball get snapped before those 3 full seconds elapse? And without having to see a scoreboard, I don't have to worry about that because the professional TV level timing we have here, I can take that clip of video and slice it down to exactly 3 seconds. Well, right before we get to the end of 3 seconds, the ball is snapped. It is snapped with, what would it be? 1/6 of a second remaining in the half. So the refs at least got the timing part of that right. The ball was snapped before the time would have ran out. Again, if you go to my X feed, Thad Brown 7, I posted it there. This is a video that's exactly 3 seconds long. You have to trust me on that, but you can download the video and time it yourself, whatever you want to do. It's an exactly 3 second video that starts when the clock goes from 4 to 3. So there were still 3 full seconds left in the half. And the ball, you can see clearly in the video, the ball gets snapped right before the video ends. So the refs got the timing right. I know it didn't look that way yesterday on the broadcast, but they got that right. Now, as someone pointed out on X, it looks like the Jags' right tackle is not quite set before the ball is snapped. There's definitely an argument there that I think certainly by the letter of the law, that probably should have been illegal formation or illegal procedure because the Jags did not have a fully set formation before they snapped it. But the 2 players who were offsides for the Bills, I think it was Rousseau and Joey Bosa, are both running past that right tackle and certainly obscure the view of any official trying to see if that guy was set. So, yeah, me and you might be able to look at an overhead and say, well, that player wasn't set. But the official who has the ability to make that call probably doesn't see it. So, therefore, the only call that's going to get made is the Bills being offside and that play proceeding as it did. So, all in all, I think the officials handled that one maybe not necessarily the 100% right way, but the best way they could. All right, let's move on to the Broncos because that's who the Bills face next, obviously, and they are the number 1 seed, such as it is. And I spent a lot of time diving into who they are, what they've been, who they've played, what they've done, and very little of it is at a level of 1 seed impressive. They don't look like a team that, forget unbeatable, is even better than the Bills. And Vegas has made Buffalo a 1.5-point favorite on the road. I mean, you think about that. If this game was in Buffalo, the Bills would be darn near a touchdown favorite. And that, to me, sounds about right. The Broncos are supposed to be built on their defense. And if you go through their overall defensive stats, they're really good. They're top 2 or 3 in everything. Run D, pass D, sacks, not turnovers, but anything yard and first down based, the Broncos are as good as it gets. Remember, this Jags defense that the Bills just played was great against the run, but middling at best against the pass. This is not Denver. They're good against third downs. They're good in the red zone. They're good against everything statistically. But they haven't exactly played a murderer's row of offenses. And when they have played the better offenses that they had on the schedule, they haven't even fared all that well. Last 6 games of the season, weeks 11 through 17, there's a bye in there. The Broncos faced Kansas City twice, Green Bay, and Jacksonville. All top 12 offenses. I know Kansas City doesn't feel like that, but we're measuring by EPA per play in this discussion, and Kansas City made the top 12. In those 6 games, this is per the Sumer Sports Brain, so I can't dial in all the math myself, but Sumer Sports Brain is pretty cool, generally all right. The Broncos in those 6 games in the NFL rank 17th defensively EPA per play, 24th EPA per run. What that means is late in the season against better, not great, but better offenses, the Broncos have been a below average defense. Not great, not the best in the NFL, not good, below average. And this is what they're supposed to be built on. Now, look, they're still going to attack you in the passing game. They have the most sacks in the NFL by a huge amount, 68. They blitz a ton. They have a ridiculous amount of athletes who can get around the edge and get after a quarterback. That's what the Broncos defense does well. But they only are really able to use that in obvious passing situations. So if the Bills can stay out of 3rd and long and stay in the game at least within a score, if you're not down 10 or 14, the Bills are going to be able to run whatever offense they want. And the numbers say the Broncos are not great at stopping it, and especially not against the run. Of the 2 different things of run versus pass, the thing that you can do against the Broncos to a degree is run on them. So if you're the Bills offense, I'm not walking in this game thinking that they need a Herculean effort to get around this defense. The numbers say that they're not that great. They gave up 26 to Washington. They gave up 26 to the Packers. They gave up 34 to the Jags. There really is not a signature defensive performance on this Denver schedule. And then the offense is just okay. And Bo Nix, he'll make some throws. He looks like a guy in his second year, that some parts of his offense are good. It's not quite refined. He'll make some bad decisions. He'll make some really good plays. He is certainly dangerous with his legs. He does a nice job of extending extending a play. And the offensive line, Pro Football Focus has him ranked number 1 in the NFL. And you can see that. Their running game, you look at the stats on Next Gen, yards before contact per attempt, the Broncos are like 5th. Yards after contact, they're like 23rd. So the offensive line is doing a whole lot of the lifting, and it helps Nix too, because he doesn't have to find throws right away. He can drop back and sit there and let things develop. Sometimes with a passing play, the first read might be covered, but the second or third thing are open, but teams who can't protect the quarterback don't ever get to those. The Broncos are going to get to the second and third thing all the time. So there's certainly some danger there, but this is not a team that I think you see as a ridiculous threat. The worry for the Bills is they just played a game and the Broncos didn't. Buffalo's beaten up, and we're about to get an injury report, at least to a degree, from Sean McDermott in a few minutes here, finding out how Jordan Poyer is, Ty Johnson, all these guys, Terrell Shavers got beat up, Josh Allen too. The Bills definitely took some nicks in Jacksonville, and having to deal with that is the disadvantage that they're going to have to worry about going into this Broncos game, where the Broncos are rested, and they have a coach in Sean Payton who certainly can take advantage of that time off. So we'll certainly dive into the Broncos a little bit later on in the week. I should be here on Thursday this week. We're waiting to see, like I said, what the travel plans are and everything else. But for now, the plan is to be in on a Thursday. Right now, the plan is to bring in Rachel Liebert, as we always do on a Monday, to talk about some of the weird stuff that happened over the weekend. And Rachel, we have 2 excellent choices for You See This. I'll let you go first because I kind of like mine better, but they're both really good.
I like yours better too.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're going to start with Darius Slay was seen on the sidelines of the Eagles-49ers game. Darius Slay was claimed by the Bills late in the season, said he wasn't going to show up, wasn't going to report because he said he was old. He didn't want to be in Buffalo. The snow was a factor. He came from the Steelers and previously was with the Eagles for 5 years. So this has been a big controversy because he technically is still with the Bills. He is like on reserve, but he is still a part of the Bills organization. And he was on the sidelines of the Eagles game, which is the team, not the last team he's with, obviously the team he won a Super Bowl with, and the team
he likes better.
The team he likes better. The team that people said he probably, if the Eagles wanted to pick him up off of waivers, he probably would have gone back there. I have a lot of thoughts on this. We'll start with the first one. Generally, I don't think this is a good look. I mean, if you want, the thing is, when he said he wasn't reporting to Buffalo, his season's over. I mean, and you want to spend time with your family, that's fine. You're committed to, I'm not playing for the Bills, my season's over, and do what you want. But it isn't a good look when the team you are technically on is also playing that day, and you could have gone to the game and not been on the sidelines. That's my first thing. Well, my first thing. Second thing, who gave him the sideline pass? Who said this was going to happen? Like, this is a guy. Okay, to me, it's like the analogy. This is their job. The NFL is their job. It's like showing up to the job you got fired from. Like, he really is showing up to the job that they let him go 2 years ago. I mean, after the last season. So it's like he's showing up to the job he got fired from. Well, you still have another job. You might be on vacation from this other job, but you're still just showing up at this job that you got fired from. So who gave him these sideline credentials is like, that just seems like, I don't know. He's not retired. He's not like a Philadelphia legend. I mean, he wasn't there for 10 plus years. So that's weird. And I mean, it's just not a good look, I think, generally. I'm not bothered by it to the extent of some fans, I guess, were on social media, but it's still just not an overall look. So I wanted to know what your thoughts were. There's
no doubt it's a bad look. There's no doubt. There's no way you can mince that any other way. Yeah. But I was kind of with you. I mean, I don't know if I care that much. Now, look, the whole who gave him a sideline pass thing is a good point because that's kind of the Eagles organization thumbing their nose at the Bills, which I can't really get behind because, like, hey, if this guy doesn't want to play for the team, that's fine. I don't know if I really want to get on the Eagles for it because why should they care?
Yeah, I don't want to get on him either, but it's just like, I'm just wondering how the situation went down. Like, oh, Darius Slay wants to come be on the sidelines for this game when he was claimed by another team. We let him go after last season. Like, it's just like a very weird, I just wonder what that was like of being,
I don't know if there's like an agreement that everybody has that, okay, you technically you are retired. You can kind of do whatever you want, but it, especially on the day, literally hours, like while the Bills were playing the game, it was the next game. So there's no doubt it was a bad look. I can't get overly angry about it. I mean, the guy made his choice. The Bills made their choice. It didn't work out for the Bills.
I mean, he said he wants to spend time with his family. That's what he's doing.
Was his family there?
I think his wife or girlfriend was with him on the sidelines.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. If you're spending time with your family and the wife or girlfriend's like, hey, hon, I want to go to the game. And she knows you're like, anybody get tickets, it's you. Yeah. Like, you're losing that. Like, it's a bad look. Nah, my wife wants to go. This is what we're doing.
That's true.
So I can understand if that's where we're going with it. Yeah. That, hey, she said we had to go. So I had to go get Pat. Like, can you help a brother out? That kind of thing. So no doubt it was a bad look. No doubt it was a bad look. And it is absolutely social media rage bait for sure for the people who want to get angry about stuff on social media. But at the end of the day, I always remember that these guys are, you talked about it comparing it to being, you went back to the place you got fired from. Is it a bad look? Yes. Are you not allowed to do that?
Yeah, you could.
I mean, if you want to go there and they want to give you passes to be there, sure, I guess. Yeah. But
I guess if the people like you, you can go back.
And clearly the Eagles still, because I think that was the whole idea, was getting him to go back there. I think the Eagles do very much like him. All right, let's move on to the other one, because this is one that is hot. So I actually do have the video here. After the Jags lost to the Bills, Liam Cohen was doing his post-game press conference, and there's a reporter. Her name is Lynn Jones. She works, I forgot the name of the paper, Jacksonville. I'll look it up here while I'm playing the soundbite. But anyway, most people, if you haven't seen this, most people understand in a post-game press conference, the job of the reporter is to ask the coach questions about how the game went, strategy, whatever. She does not do that. She provides him essentially a pep talk for losing the game and for him to just keep feeling good about himself. Here is that video of Lynn Jones talking to Lynn Cohen after the Bills beat the Jags on Sunday.
How you doing today? Lynn Jones, Jacksonville Free Press News. I just want to tell you congratulations on your success, young man.
Thank you.
You hold your head up, all right? You guys have had a most magnificent season.
Thank you.
And you did a great job out there today.
Appreciate
so you
it.
just hold your head up, okay?
Thank
and
you,
ladies
ma'am.
and gentlemen, Duval, you the one, all
Thank
right?
you, ma'am.
keep it going. We got another season, okay?
I appreciate
Take
it.
care and much continued success to you and the entire team.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so This was originally posted by Adam Schefter, and his caption was, or his comment was, look how nice this is that this woman says these nice things to the guy who probably is feeling down about a loss. And he's not wrong. It is a nice thing to do. The reason it's a controversy is that everybody who covers any sport, and especially the NFL, immediately said that's 100% the wrong thing to do. You may have some reasons. Let me go through mine here quick. Okay. Number one, has been pointed out by many reporters, you have a limited amount of time in a post-game press conference. The coach is not there as long as you want him there. He's there as long as he wants to be there. And when it's a loss, and especially a season-ending loss, that time is limited. It's not like because she was nice, they're going to give reporters more time. So you are taking an opportunity to do your job and interrupting it for this other message. Number two, there are other times and places to do that. This is not the only time. If you're a beat reporter, if you're there all the time, you have opportunities to talk to a player or coach and say, hey, that was okay. I've done this with a number of Bills players. I've walked into a guy and said, hey, great block you had there. That was a great throw. I like that catch a lot. There's chances to do that. You do not have to do that in the organized press setting where questions are being asked and answered. The final part of this is, although she's offering a bit of consolation or being nice to Liam Cohen there, she could have cut that off a number of different times. The length that she goes is about 21 seconds. Doesn't seem like a lot. Either says to me that you are unaware of the situation, of what the protocol is in that spot, or you're looking for a little me time. That I want to be on. I want to make sure that my message gets out there, that we hear what I have to say for a little bit of time. I don't have a question to answer, but I want to make sure I get a little pub. And now this woman, Lynn Jones, has been a reporter, as she pointed out, thankfully, at the Jacksonville Free Press for about 20 years. So she knows how most press conferences work. Maybe not the NFL ones. I don't know how many times she's been in that setting, but she should have an understanding of how the business works. You do not have to make that about you. And that's what it sounds like to me is happening there, that she is making that about her opportunity to say what she wants to say to the coach and not do what that time is for, to offer questions to the coach that you might learn information for. Doesn't mean that it's coming from a bad place where she's being selfish. She may just not be aware. Or the other thing that happens too, and I will say this, when you start asking a question in that spot and it's you on the spot and everybody's looking at you, there are some nerves that kick in. So maybe where you could have asked a 12-second question and turns into a 22-second question, that happens to everybody. And if that's certainly what happened, I would totally understand. But bottom line, that is not the time and place to do it. And as nice as it is, and as appreciated as it is, and as needed as something like that is in this society, that was not the spot for it.
I don't disagree with you, but I feel like I have a different take on this. I mean, to me, I think people are more up in arms about this than they should be. I understand there's a time and place to be professional, but I honestly kind of disagree with you that she kind of wanted to make it about herself. I feel like
it may not.
To me, it feels like this is someone who's been covering, like you said, at least the Jags for 20 years. Who maybe she covered him for someone else.
Well, I don't know if it's the Jags. She's been in the business for 20 years. Yeah.
And to me, it just feels like a person who recognized human emotion and just had that moment. To me, I don't see this as something that we should be crucifying this woman for. I understand there's a time and place to be professional, and if you're a reporter in that room and someone takes 25 seconds to not even ask a question and just say this, I get it. And she did use the word we, and I know a lot of people are saying that too, of acting like the Jags are we as she's part of it. But I don't think it's her being a fan. I think it was just her having like a human moment and recognizing like the emotion of the moment. And I get it. Like I said, there's a time and place. She can write about this. She can do it off of the time of being the press conference. But I think people saying this is peak, unprofessionalism, I don't agree with that. I think it's just she got caught up in the moment of feeling like she had a message to give to someone. And also, I mean, you might disagree with this, but my take on the situation too is I don't know if you've seen the Kevin Stefanski clip that people are going around with this as well. Their last game of the season, obviously, people were wondering if Stefanski was going to get fired from the Browns. A guy reporter did essentially the same exact thing that this woman did, saying, you had a great season. You had, not the cards were against you. Your offense wasn't great. Like, I applaud you. The same exact thing, and nobody talked about it. And I'm not here to say we're putting a spotlight on this because it's a woman, but I do think in this situation, if we want to talk sports media, if you want to talk about Twitter as a society, I think people are so much faster to criticize a woman in this industry for being unprofessional than they are for a man. And I'm not saying she wasn't unprofessional in that situation, but I do think that we are so much faster to say that was unprofessional. Why did she do that? Then, like I said, this same thing happened with Kevin Stefanski 2 weeks ago, and nobody talked about it. Nobody clipped it. And to me, yes, there's a time and place. She could have said this somewhere else. I agree with your sentiment. But I also think we live in just such a world of like, things are negative, like just let someone have a human connection moment. And I don't think it was 25 seconds that they're not going to get back, but I don't think that 25 seconds was detrimental to that press conference. And that's my take on it.
You might be wrong about the last part. It's not peak unprofessionalism. I guarantee there's been worse. You're not probably wrong about the way women get criticized. I totally agree with that. I would want to see the Kevin Stefanski clip, and I would probably feel the same way that I do about that. The reason this one got spotlighted is because Adam Schefter put it out there. That's
I wonder
why.
if he's going to make
if he put the Stefanski one out, we'd probably have the same debate about all that stuff. The big pushback I'd have to what you say is that if she's doing an emotional moment, why is she talking about we Duval? Hey, that sounds like a cheerleader right there.
Yeah, I mean,
if she wants to be like emotional helping, then it's all going to be okay, you're good, you're fine, and not yay Duval, go, all that stuff. That to me sounds we want to fan this out.
I agree with you too. I mean, also thinking about the other reporters that I've seen criticize this, other people too are so caught up in the fandom of the teams that they cover too, and I think they're unaware. I think that may be like, no, that's a separate issue in itself. But some of the people that I've seen go so heavy on criticizing this woman, like I'll click on their Twitter and there's things on their Twitter that you could say borderline this fandom thing too. And I think that's just naturally something that people, like, especially in the social media era too, gets crossed over with sports reporting. But I mean, like I said, I think, yes, there's a time and place she could have done better, but I'm not all up in arms and as much as Twitter is right now.
I'm not bent about it, but it was the wrong thing to do, you know, and I think that needs to be realized. And the other thing too, it's not so much that it was a terrible thing, but Adam Schefter encouraged it, you know, so we don't want to be there either, you know, in terms of this is great, this is awesome. I get it, and I like being encouraging to people, but like I said, I found times to do it. Make an effort to find the right time to do it if you want to do that stuff. Good conversation. We should have had about 15 minutes more for this. Rachel, thanks for being in as always. We will probably see you again on Thursday. I'm Thad Brown. This is the Endgame. We'll catch you later.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.